the Harbir Singh podcast.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome back to the show. It's a huge honor to have Mann Singh from Sikh History podcast on the show again. The last one was mind-blowing for me because there's certain things that he said in the podcast that have stuck with me to this day. And there's one quote you gave. It was related to Harbir Singh Nalwar, I think, and he said that when he died, he wanted his ashes to be spread in the Akhara. Yeah. And there's been times when I've gone to training and I've really not felt like training, and I've thought, actually, you know what? If he valued this so much, then obviously there's something in this, and I need to keep it up. So I need to thank you for that conversation and your insights. But today we're going to be talking about kesh, and it's a very important topic because when someone sees a Sikh, that's the first thing they notice, right? In our Western world where we live, in the UK and probably in other countries outside of India, well, and in India, when you see someone with a turban and a beard, you think, okay, that person's a Singh, or they call them Sardarji. So we want to talk about what is the relevance of kesh from a historical perspective. Why do we need it? Is it still relevant in the 21st century? Do we still need to have a visual identifier, or can we just be like focused on the kind of spiritual side and blend in terms of the external aspects? So we're going to be answering all those questions. Well, you will be so
I'll try. I don't know much, but I'll try.
No, it's going to be amazing. So yeah, just jump right in wherever you want to start from.
Looking at kesh and thinking of kesh, I always think throughout history, where there's been anything of a spiritual nature or any prophets of God, from the Hindu Devte, the Rishis, the Munis, the prophets of other faith, Moses, Jesus, they've always been depicted and they've always had long hair. Even faiths such as Orthodox Jews, the Amish people, Rastafarians, hair has an important part to play in their dharam. If you look at Rastas, for example, the long dreadlocks represent the lion's mane, symbolizing Africa, the Lion of Judah. They see their dreadlocks as that which differentiates them from the colonizers, and it's a sign of rebellion, it's a sign of strength. And if we look at kesh being a sign of strength, if we read in the Bible when we were young coming up about the story of Samson and Delilah and how Samson's strength was rooted in his long hair. And throughout history, hair has been a common means of cultural expression. Like if you see African ladies, if you see Buddhists, if you see people of different dharms, the hair is a beautiful way for people to show their culture, their identity, and make statements about their belief and their way of life. It has a long and deep connection with warrior cultures. If you look at some of the greatest warriors throughout history, that even non-Sikhs that we look at, say if we look at Miyamoto Musashi, Alexander the Great, Crazy Horse, the Native American, Genghis Khan, William Wallace, all people who kept long hair. So it's not just a Sikh thing to have kesh. Kesh is world-renowned throughout history. And when it comes to warrior cultures, the samurais respected the kesh and the gutti, the jura, that much that to cut the top knot off of a living samurai was the highest form of dishonor. And now for us, for Sikhs, kesh is seen as an outward representation of inner strength. Our kesh is our connection to the Guru. It's about devotion to the path of Sikhi, and it shows that we will live and die by a set of principles. And for me, it's basically simple as this. The Guru ordered we keep kesh, so we keep our kesh. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as the Guru ordered something, so we'll do it. All dependent on your love and your Sharda for the Guru. And it's a judgmental path. And when it comes to kesh and spirituality, there's a very deep connection. But I'm going to cut this short because, me being honest, I don't know nothing about spirituality. And I still go back, and tomorrow I'll do in India for 45 minutes tomorrow. But those Sants or those Mahapurukhs who have really had a spiritual experience and can talk about it is because they now live it. I don't live that spiritual life. I'm a student of history. I love history, so I'll talk about kesh through the love of history. And it's my ideas of kesh are all based on pyar. And our beloved is Guru Gobind Singh. We love the Guru more than anything. And Guruji said, "Bina shastra ke sang narang ped jano, gehe kaan tako kipe le sadano, ehe mor agya sun leo pyare, bina teg ke sang na devo didare. Guruji, Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, and this is from Gurbalas Padshah Dasmi. Guruji has said, without weapons and gears, you're nothing but a sheep, and you can be led anywhere by your ear. So an order has come from our Guru, our beloved, whom to us there's no difference between the Guru and Rab. Guru Nanak was Aap Parameshwar ka Avatar, Aap Parameshwar Nirankar. So Guru Gobind Singh was exactly the same. So it's Rab saying to us, keep your hair. And it's up to us and our connection and our relationship with the Rab of how much we do. So it's about keeping the gaze. And when we look at Sikh history, every day in Ardas, me, you, everyone in the Sikh Panth, they say a certain set of words, and it's Sikhi Kesa Swasanal. With each hair, each gaze, and each breath, we salute those and we bow down to those. And we do Ardas with Maharaj. We, Nabar, our Sikhi, we all know growing up, we hear stories of the Sikh Shaheeds. And for example, by Taru Singh Ji, who was scalped, who went through horrendous torture but never gave up their Sikhi or their Sikhi Swarup. I'm not going to go too much into Bhai Taru Singh Sakhi because it's one that we all know. But another few Sakhi that show the importance of gaze. One is the Sakhi of Bhai Tara Singh. And so at one point in Sikh history, this was 5 years after the Shahidi of Banda Singh Bahadur, in and around Tara Singh's Bend, which is Wah. There's another bend where there lived some poor farmers. And these were people who were living and just surviving just above that threshold of Gribi. They were Grib, and they were farming. And the landlord who owned that village, owned that Jagir, he had 2 beautiful horses, and he let those horses free out in the fields. Those horses would come to the Singh's fields and eat all the crops. And these things needed these crops to sustain their families and to sell on for their young children, that their old Bajorg Bibi are living with them. And it was vital that they had these crops. The horses would come and eat them. So the Singhs very politely, with much respect, went to the landlord and they said, listen, your horse keeps coming into our field and eating our crops. We've got families to provide for. Can you please tie up your horses? And this egotistical landlord who had bared against the Sikh Panth and Sikh said to him, you want to tie my horses up? You know how I'll tie my horses up? I will cut your hair and your beards, and from that I will make a rope, and then I'll tie my horses up. Until that day, I will not tie my horses up. I will cut your hair, and then I'll tie my horses up. And those things, those words hurt so much. Those things went back, and they felt like, you know what, for dishonoring and speaking about our rule in such a way. You know what, we need to do something, we need to thrash him or something. But then they thought, hang on, but if we do, our families are from this bend, our wives, our grandmothers, our children are all here. We can't do this. We've got to live and provide for them. And these were just normal armed Sangat, normal armed Sikhs that lived there. 2 other Singhs found out, 2 Nihang Singhs, they found out that this landlord said this. So they said, you know, we can't allow this disrespect. So they went and stole his horses. They stole his horses, and I'm cutting the story, the Sakhi, short now, and they sell them on. And selling them on, they bring that money and they place it before Baba Tara Singh. Baba Tara Singh was one of the greatest warriors of the Khalsa Panth. He fought in all the battles of Anandpur Sahib. He fought in the battle of Sirhan. He stayed with the Guru, and he was well known and renowned. So he had a bunga. They came and presented the money to him for langar in the bunga. And the Mughal Surprise, so the landlord reported the theft. The Mughal Surprise ended up coming to his bunga and saying, these 2 thieves have stolen horses and they've come here, hand over the horses. Hand over the money or the horses. And Baba Tara Singh gave a jawab with, these are Singhs, they're not thieves. The thieves are you who tax and rob the poor and say disrespectful, dishonorable things about the Swarup of Sikhi. And a battle commences. There's a few skirmishes, and later on a battle commences where over 2,200 horsemen, camels, elephants, there's a whole battle charge that goes against Baba Tara Singh Ji, who calls forward some of these Singhs, and there's 22 Singhs altogether who give their Shahidi, who fight this battle and give their Shahidi, going back to this comment of what happened. That's how important the love of Kesh was. Another Sakhi from Sikh history that mentions the respect of kesh is during the times of the Chota Kallukara, when the Singhs have left Punjab, who are living in jungles, so they left Punjab and come to another area, they're confronted by Jaspat Rai. And they say to Jaspat Rai, look, we're in your area now, we're in your alaka, we're just going to stay for 1 or 2 days, we're going to have our own langar and then we're going to pass on. And he says, let you stay. I'm looking at cutting your hair and killing you like we killed your Mann Singh. And you want to stay in this area? I'm looking at killing you and shaving your heads. And because of the words that he spoke, when he came face to face with the Singhs, a young Singh by the name of Nababu Singh jumped up on his elephant and decapitated Jaspat Rai because of the words he said about the kesh. And there's another example, and this relates to an attempted suicide as well. So there's a young Singh by the name of Bhai Sukha Singh. Bhai Sukha Singh falls in love with Sikhi at a young age, and he goes to the Dal and he takes Amrit. When he returns to his Bind and his family sees that he's taken Amrit, they're like, okay, and now more and more Singhs start coming to the Bind. And this is at a time where Sikhs are hunted and killed, especially those who are affiliated with the Khalsa. He's a young guy at this time. He's barely 11 or 12 years old. He's got no dara on his face. And one day his parents think that, you know what, if Sikhs keep coming here and he's affiliated with them, they also, the Mughal Hukumat at the time, will kill our child. And one day when Sukha Singh is not at home, the Mughals come, raid his Bind and come to his house, and they raid his house looking for him. When he comes back, his parents say, listen, you can't stay with the Khalsa. You can't keep this Sikh History. And now his parents are going against him, and he explains to them, my Sikh History is worth more than anything, and this is my dharam. That night, they drug him. So in his food, in his sag, they put some drugs and they knock him out. When he's bahosh and knocked out unconscious, they call a barber to the house, who then cuts and shaves his head. When he wakes up in the morning, he feels, you know, how do you feel your head? He felt his head. The star has been removed and his case has been cut. And he was so upset and so distraught that he walked out to the local well, the pool, which was, you know, in India, how the pools are massive and very deep. And so distressed that his Sikh Swarup has been taken away, he jumps into that pool and he tries to drown himself. So it's a massive drop down a deep well, and he lands at the bottom of the well in the water, and he survives the drop. And then even then he's trying to drown himself. All the villagers from the Bend come close, and they're all like shouting down, and he's shouting up saying, no, I don't want to live without my Sikh Swarup. I don't want to live in a world where I can't practice my faith freely because of my parents. So he's trying to drown himself. There's a Nihang Singh warrior that's passing the village at this time, and he hears the commotion, and he comes over to ask the villagers what's going on. And they explain a Sikh has jumped down the well. And the Nihang warrior, the old Baba, looks down the well, and he shouts down to Sukha Singh, like, what are you doing? Like, why do you want to die? And he shouts back, Sukha Singh shouts back up, I want to die because of this, my case has been removed. And the Baba says, no, if you want to die, then die fighting the enemy in battle. Die doing seva for the Khalsa Pantha. Don't commit suicide. Don't do this. Don't get upset over something that's happened. You build that inner strength and you build with the Guru. So Sukha Singh listens and he comes back up. He comes out of the well with throw the ropes down, and he speaks with the Baba. The Baba reties the star and says, you know what? Sometimes things like this happen, but you know what? We overcome them. We get stronger. You can grow your Sikh Swarup and your case back. And he takes the child back to the Dal. Baba Sukha Singh ends up taking Amrit again from the senior warriors. And then he lives a life where he's one of our greatest shaheeds and greatest warriors to ever exist. Like they say that he had more karname during that time of any other Singh. He was the Sukha Singh who, alongside Bhai Madab Singh, chopped off Masaranga's head. He was the same Sukha Singh who no one was allowed to have Ishnan at Darbar Sahib. He went and had Ishnan at Darbar Sahib. He was the same Sukha Singh in the Vadda and Chota Kallukara. He was the one who kept the Pantha alive through his bravery. And that's what case is about. I see is you don't look left or right about what anyone else is doing. You don't judge anyone. It's not about standing out or fitting in. That's all a byproduct. The thing is love. It's all based on love. And I sometimes see it as a test. In the same way, you know, when Guru Nanak Dev Ji used to test their sect, And one day Guru Nanak Dev Ji was walking in the jungle with their Gursikh, with Pailana, with others, and they came across a stench, a really bad stench, and then there was a dead body covered with a cloth. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji said to the Sikh, go and eat it. It stunk, and there was a shape of a dead body. And Maharaj said to Sikh, go and eat it. And they all refused. Even the Guru's own children refused and said, no, we're not gonna. But Pailana, who was a beloved of the Guru and accepted Guru Nanak Dev Ji as Rab, said Satpaj, and he stepped forward. He went to the chadar, and then he said to Guru Nanak, where do you want me to start, at the head or at the foot? And when he lifted the chadar, then he saw it was Kara Prasad underneath. The stench went away, and he realized it was just a test. And in this life, I believe the Sikh History is a test as well. Because it is hard to have at the start, and it is hard to stand out in such a way. And sometimes my own kids, they're very young, they ask me, like, Dad, why do we keep our hair long? No one else in the class or no one else in the school has long hair. And I explain to them, because we follow the Guru. Our Guru is our beloved, and we're Sikhs and we're support, and we're followers of the Guru, so we do what the Guru instructed. And nowadays we have people always saying, you know what, you just have Sikhi on the inside, you don't need to have this. And when I break it down to my children, I tell them, it's like following a football team. If you go to a football match, all the supporters of a football team in the stands, they all wear their football colours, and they represent the team that they're supporting. They show allegiance. And in the same way, us keeping our case, one of the ways is just showing allegiance to the Guru, allegiance to a set of principles. And it's in the same way, you don't get someone going to the supporters in the football match saying, guys, I understand you're wearing the colours, but you know what? You can just have the colours on the inside. You don't have to wear the jersey. It would be ridiculous. Everyone knows that. But the outward representation of what's inside is all based on their support and their commitment to something. And the same way, it's our commitment to our faith. And Gaze does make you stand out. And it ties you to a set of beliefs, ethics, morals, and principles. And therefore, a standard set of behavior is expected. And a mad story is, I'm not into football. I kind of dislike it. I call it the kicking the ball in the net game. But we went to France quite a few years ago, me and a few Sengs. And we went to Barcelona, the new Camp Stadium, to watch a football match between Barcelona and Real Madrid. As we were walking to the stadium, there were about four of us. Obviously, we're the only ones in this whole crowd with the Stara who stood out. And then the next thing you know, we're walking through a crowd, looking around, and oh, yo, there's a lot of skinheads here. And I look close and I see one guy's got a swastika tattoo on his chest. And he reaches forward and he grabs one of the Singhs of the Stara and he pulls it. As he pulls the star, one of the other Singhs turns and in a matter of seconds, we're like, no. We grabbed the star, pull it back. And before you know it, we got jumped. We got like everyone who could swing at us swung at us. Bottles, punches, kicks, you name it. We were getting fully battered by this whole crowd of football. There must have been about 60, 70 people all trying to throw kicks, throwing bottles. Like some of the things were just cut up. Like it's just a crazy experience that I don't know how we didn't die. When we stepped away from it, and we did get away, Maharaj Kirpa, we survived. We were fine at the end of the day. We walked out of there. When we got back to England, and I told someone this year we got jumped, and someone said to me, you know, it's because you stood out, and you know, it's because of your turban and you're the style. You know what? If you didn't have that, you would have been better off. And I was thinking, no. This is just a minor price to pay. This taught me that I do stand out. And this taught me, and it gave me that opportunity to make that chance and to think about, I could have took my star off, wore a cap, but I would have had no other way. Again, I would take those beatings day and day just to have this Sikh History. It's that important. I had a good friend, Little Jag, his name was. He's passed away now. He died. He was a soldier. He was such a good-hearted banda. Anyone who ever met him always spoke good things about it, and he had pure love for Sikhi. Me and Little Jag were walking in town, in Birmingham town, and we were walking on Broad Street on the way home. And when we was walking in Broad Street, we saw a Singh, a trim Singh, someone who never kept dari, but had like a small bag. And they were standing outside a bar, and he was drinking with a bunch of Gore, because it was about 5:30, 6 o'clock on a Friday. Work's over. We were on the way back from, I think we were wagging college or school that day, and we were coming back. And we saw him. I was like, "La Singh, ki karda?" but little Jag, and we both looked at him, and the Singh looked at us. And as we crossed paths, there was a nod. He nodded to us, and we nodded to him. And as we walked on, little Jag turned to me and said, "You see?" He goes, "No matter how far someone goes, no matter what path they go down, if they have the case, if they have the jura, they will still give you that Singh nod. And that's an indication that there's a route back for them. No matter where this Singh goes, look, he was drinking. The Sikhs do not drink. He was drinking. But he had that thing where if I see another Sikh, I will give him the nod, I'll give him that." And little Jag said to me, "See, that's a route back to the Guru. No matter in a few years, he'll see himself in the mirror, and because his mom and his family have forced him or made him or encouraged him to keep his gaze, he might not be living that perfect Jeevani, but because he's got his gaze, he's got a route back to the Guru." And little Jag goes to me, "Watch, one day he's going to come back." And it was just eye-opening to me, thinking it's true. No matter where you go across the world, you see us saying, from Duro, you have that pyar to go on Balan. And even in places where there's many Singhs, if someone's not on the path, if they have that suru, it's a route back to the Guru. And the other thing is, it's something for you that's a deterrent. So as a Singh, as a Sardar with a case, the star, there's certain places you can't go. There's certain things you can't do because, you can't go into a strip club or anything like that. Like the Sakhi of Baba Joga Singh, you'll be recognized as a Sikh of the Guru, and that's somewhere you can't go because that's not behaviors and it doesn't align with our morals. And when I was at school one day, all of our kids, we got together, this is high school, and we thought, you know what, we got double German next, forget it, let's just wag, let's just play truant. But in order to play truant, we had to run across the field. So to get out through the fence, then we'd go park or whatever and chill. So everyone started running, and I ran as well. The next day, Mr. Richards, like the sixth form head, he comes into the lesson and he goes, "Oi, Singh, get out!" And so he takes me out the lesson and he goes, "You were wagging it yesterday. You were leaving the school premises. I saw you. How do you think you're going to get away with that turban?" He goes, "I recognise you. You had that turban. There's only one guy this year with that turban, and it's you." And I thought, man, if I never had the start, I would have got away. And he just taught me that with the start, there's certain behaviours I can't do. And then he said to me, you got to tell everyone else's names. And I was like, I can't do that. So I just had to take all the detentions on my own. But it was a beautiful lesson that with this suroop, with the star, there's certain behaviours and things like that you can't do. And there's a certain way of behaving. And at a young age, I was blessed to get such a beautiful lesson.
I've experienced that personally from when I had cut hair, and I used to go clubs and we used to get in fights and things like that. And just walking down the street, we'd get into fights sometimes. But once I became a Singh, I don't know what it was, but after that time, I didn't get in any more trouble. And I just probably partly because I avoided some of the scenarios where it's typically going to happen, like clubs, pubs, bars where there's alcohol involved, where it's late at night. Those are quite typical scenes for violence and aggression and that kind of animalistic type of behavior. So just distancing myself from that because of the image and Sangat, I think really changed my potential outcomes. I didn't get in all of those scenarios could have ended really badly. So I'm really fortunate. Actually, it's kept me away from a lot of stuff. And like you said, there's certain places you as a gear study is like someone with the star gear study, you can't go. You just.
How do you feel your life changed once you kept this case and the Sickies rule?
To be frank, I think the spiritual side of it was really good, because it was very different for me coming from someone who didn't have any knowledge of God or didn't even really think about God or know whether I believed in God or not. And Sikhi in terms of the gurus, I had no knowledge and didn't know anything about it and was kind of none the wiser. But so walking on the path and hearing these spiritual wisdoms and experiencing some peace from Simran, it was a beautiful experience and a beautiful journey. But during the rough times, which inevitably come, I think it was the image that actually kept me in it and kept me in the Sangat and kept me kind of going along the path. I think if the image wasn't there, I don't know whether I would still be on the path.
And I've had it sometimes where I'm feeling down, and it's the fellow Singhs that said, "Nah, you're one of us. You're with us. We follow this path of warriors." And then that's always kept me in line. And I tell you one crazy thing that happened. Like I accept in this dunya, I'm a no one. We went to Palestine to do a few things there. So we were in Palestine, Israel, that type of area. And that's an area where they've never seen Sikhs. And so I was getting a lot of attention. Like loads of people were coming to me on both sides of the border saying, "Yo, like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? What is all this about? Like, are you Muslim? Are you Jewish? Are you what path do you follow?" And then I was like, I'm no one. And they'd say, "No, but what path do you follow? Why do you stand out? Like, we're drawn to you, but not any of these other people." And then I'd say, I follow the path of Nanak. I follow the path of Guru Nanak. And they're like, "Who's that?" And then I had to start explaining about the Sikh that and what Sikh is and what Guru is. And then like 4 or 5 times this happened in a space of 2 or 3 hours. And then I turned and I said to the people with me, like, "This is crazy. Like, I've come just to do something else." But it's as if, like Maharaj is saying, you got to tell these people about this dharam. And like so many people were interested just because of the saroop. And I bet the same's happened with you somewhere or another, where someone's come up to you because of the saroop and it's sparked a conversation. And it's always so much inquisitiveness and pyar. And I'm just like, well, I don't deserve none of this pyar, attention or anything. But it's just amazing that this saroop, the opportunities and the life it opens up.
Yeah, in terms of opportunities, I can definitely vouch for that, because upon graduating in 2010, the Olympics was in 2012, and I went for a role in the Olympics, and they made me a team leader, and I was managing people who were in their 50s and managing people who had been doing this for, their life. And I was 23, 24, something like that. And I feel like this group really made a difference, because they wanted to have representation from the countries that were competing. So I was working in wrestling, and wrestling has, they have Indian wrestlers, they have all types of different countries. And even just meeting the Russians, who were very nice, actually, it was very much a conversation style. But in terms of opportunities in the NHS, opportunities in things like the Olympics, I don't think I would have had those opportunities if I didn't visually look different. And this podcast as well, like meeting yourself, meeting all of these amazing people that I've met, I don't know whether I would have had that opportunity if it wasn't for the Sikhi Sarup.
Do you believe, because this is something that I've discussed with other people, there are anti-Sikh elements out there that are attacking the Sikhi Sarup through various means? Now, what I'm saying is, I lived in India for quite some time, and when you live in India for a time, after about 180 days, you have to go and get your visa and passport stamped and stuff. So I went back to my bend to get my passport and stuff. So I was there for 2 or 3 nights, and there we'd watch Darbar Sahib on TV. And obviously, Darbar Sahib is the home of Sickies. It's our love. It's our everything. So watching Darbar Sahib, the first advertisement once Darbar Sahib Kirtan and evening program finished was an advertisement that was sponsored by Gillette. So obviously in the West, we all know Gillette's a shaving cream and shaving company. And what the question was in the advertisement, there was an interviewer with a mic, and he was interviewing various different people, and they all happened to be models, randomly walking the street, and they'd say to him, what is more attractive? Is beard attractive, or is clean shaven, like handsome, attractive? And then they'd all be like, no, clean shave, this is the most attractive, and stuff like that. And in my bed, the people that were sitting there watching this with me were people who never had their gaze, they were money, and they were looking at each other, dekh. And then I was explaining to them, listen, this is an advert sponsored by Gillette. Yeah. And I was explaining to them the actual propaganda that was taking place. And then really at that time, I felt, there's an element out there, or there's pressure from Kaljuk, from the West, from the world, to go against these old sarups that represent a certain way of life. You have anything like experienced that?
I think the pressure is overwhelming. I think if you go on Instagram, if you go on Facebook, which people do hundreds of times, they have exposure in terms of on their feeds. If you go to school, if you go to work, it's definitely going against the grain to follow this way of life. And I think some of the things you said really resonated in terms of you have to have a strong love, and you have to build that love through Sangat and through Gurbani, Vichar, and through history, through any way you can, because you're not going to do it just for the sake of looking different. There has to be some depth to that. And if you're going to be visibly different to everybody else, there definitely has to be a strong why behind that. One of my questions was, you had Bin Laden. So then, some people in the West started associating the image of someone having a beard and a turban and calling them Bin Laden, or assuming they were Muslim. So I've had lots of people assume I'm Muslim. So that I've come across that, especially outside of London. So when you go to places like Chicago, for example, where it's quite a Bible Belt part of America. And so there are these constant, the easy way out is just to conform. But even if you conform, you're still never going to be one of them. Like, we're never going to be, even though we were born in this country. Sometimes I was training in the park, which is right next to my house, and I live in Slough, which is probably it is actually the most culturally diverse place in like the south of England, outside of central London. There's something like 56 different communities here. And someone shouted Paki while I was training in the park. And I thought, I'm probably more British than he is. I've been paying taxes.
Yeah.
I probably paid for his education if he got one. And I thought, this is insane. This is what, 2000 and probably 2019 or 2020, probably 2019. My kids are going to have to deal with this when they grow up, even though they have no concept of like, why would somebody shout abuse at me? Just for no reason. They don't know me. They have, so the easy way out is definitely to conform. But even if you did conform, you're not going to change the color of your skin. You're not going to change, what you're going to change. How much are you going to conform? Even if you change your name to Thomas or John, you're still not going to be British in terms of.
If you're always searching to fit in, or always searching to go along with the masses, you're never going to be yourself. You're never going to be that authentic, organic being. And I believe Sikhi, with the Sikh History, it frees you from this. Because for me, it says the dunya is doing one thing. It doesn't matter what the dunya is doing. We're going to do our thing. And our thing's based on pyar. And truthfully, when I look at Sikhi, I see pyar, love and naam. That is the main thing. And that's what we're going to concentrate on. And anyway we go, through love, through discourse, through conversation, we can always explain. Like in America, a number of times, in California, in other places, we were there in America when the shooting happened in Wisconsin.
Yes, wow.
We were there around that time, and after that shooting, we ended up having so many conversations on the street saying, "Okay, so what are you guys against Sikh?" And then we'd explain what Sikh is. And then we took a few people to the Gurdwara, and I had a few people that I know that work in the military who messaged me saying, "You know what, they're directed to Wisconsin where this event took place. And we never knew you guys are so loving and you serve food to everyone, and these are all your beliefs." And he goes, "That's amazing." And he goes to me, "You guys need to tell more people." So one of the things that has fallen on us that we haven't done such a good job is spreading the word of Sikhi and why we're different, why we look like this, and why we live life a different way, why we carry weapons, why our Guru did so many different things to bring this dharam and such to the world. I think and you're doing a great job with your podcast and what you're doing. You are doing that out there as well.
Really think people like Jagmeet Singh, Khalsa Aid, Ravi Singh, there's some people who are quite, out there in the mainstream.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a terrific job for normalizing the image of a Sikh, because there is, I think, an immense amount of pressure on people to, like if you take France, for example, they don't want any visual representation of any faith. They don't want anyone to wear a hijab, a cross. They want everyone to be nationalist. They want everyone to conform. And I think there is that pressure. Whether you work in an organization, you're in a school, you've got challenges related to relationships, friendships, or dynamics within the workplace. So, but it goes back to, I think, what you were saying, that it is really important to build your love and walk that path of love. And if you love something, like the football team analogy, you want to represent it. You want to do your best to support that team.
Another thing that I've found that's happening, even in predominantly Asian or Sikh areas, we're getting less and less gay studies Sikhs in the schools. So, for example, Smevik, and there's local primary schools in Smevik where I've got some nephews or nieces going to. And every time I've been to the school, and it starts off when the kid goes to school in reception in year one, there were about 4 or 5 kids with a good year. And by the time in year 6, there was one left. And there's less and less gay study kids in primary schools. And there's a number of reasons that questioning other people in the playgrounds, talking to people. Number one is that the parents are now getting very lazy and they're spending less time with the children. They're spending more time on Facebook, TikTok. They're prioritizing social media and social life over spending time with their children and spending that bonding time of a mother or a father combing their child's hair and looking after it and say, you know what, it's easy just to cut it. They get up, they go themselves. We don't have to spend that 5 or 10 minutes with that child, which for some of those families is the only time that the parents might spend with the children. Other things is that they say a lot to us that, oh, because our kid has a good D or a bug, he or she is going to get picked on because they're different. And it's the same thing. I always respond with, they will get picked on if there are bullies around who choose to pick on them. It doesn't matter if they've got a good D or a bug, if they're brown, whatever. Bullies will pick on anyone regardless of color. White children will get bullied. Children of any nationality, no matter how they look, will get bullied.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I was thinking about my own personal experience because Bhagat Singh went to a white school, and my son, Bhagat Singh, and someone said to him, and we know the girl, she lives down our street, and she's got a good heart, and she goes, oh, why have you got a potato on your head? But now he goes to a Sikh school, and the half of the school in terms of the boys have jewelry in this Sikh school, but they'll say something else to him. They'll say, why are you like this or why are you like that? So it's not so much about cutting a kid's hair. It's more about actually how do you allow a kid to be confident in their own skin, and how do you enable that?
That's one of the things that we're doing now, is we're doing a Gay Sambal seminar. Me and a few Singhs, Indie Singhs, and the Singh Army podcast Singhs, we were looking at the situation of kids in Sikh, from Sikh homes who are getting bullied and problems that are having. And one of the things that they've always come back with, we get picked on because of our gays or our gutti. And so we said, okay, we'll run a seminar. And now we've started running it up and down the country. We've done a couple of cities and we're going to continue. And what the basis of the seminar is, number one, we teach them how not to be victims, how to stand up for themselves, and how to use their voice. The first thing that happens with bullying is it starts verbally. So if verbally the child can give a response and say, no, this is not on, this is not the correct way to behave, you're being disrespectful. And if they say something about your gaze, we've made sheets for them or little cards for them explaining, we keep our gaze, which is our long hair, as a representation of our faith. What you're doing now is racist or against our faith, and it's not nice behavior. You need to stop. So we're teaching the children how to tell the bully, stop, it will not be tolerated. And then we teach them how to use their voice in a commanding way and how to explain. And then we also teach what to do if someone, worse comes to worse, does grab your other star or grab your bug or grab your gut and try and pull it. We will teach you wrestling defense. We will teach you a few self-defense moves of how to deal with that. But the key for us was getting to the children young, teaching them confidence, teaching them love. So we learn Sickies. We go through the Sakhi of the Sahibs out there. We go through other Sakhi of why Kesh and why our Saroop is so important and so beloved to us, that there were more put on our Sikhs. Even then, the Sikhs didn't cut their hair. Children were thrown up and caught on Barshe, and mothers were punished for having Sikhi, but we still didn't give up our faith. Faith for us is most beloved, more beloved than anything else. And we teach the children, we're not judging anyone. We're not judging anyone if they haven't got a good deed or they wear their good deed in a different way, because the bullies of most Sikh children are sometimes Sikh themselves. It's always the Gutti kids that are bullying the other Gutti kids because his Gutti is bigger than everyone else. And they all have a laugh and joke about it. And then we're teaching these kids, no, we don't bully each other. We don't pick on each other. We pick each other up. We support and have love for each other. And I think it's the feedback we're getting is really good. And the other thing we do is we teach children how to do their jura and their case. So our plan is by year 7, a minimum, every Sikh child, boy or girl, should be able to do their got or should be able to do jura, tire patka or tire the star. What we'll say is, look, this is how you do it. And then we'll set them, we'll give them a calendar of, okay, I'm going to do a tick every night when I go home. This is a child who can't do his jura. So every night when he goes, before he goes to sleep.
Sorry, my dog.
It's all cool. He'll comb his own hair and he'll do his jura, then he'll go to sleep. He's not going to go anywhere. So if his jura opens in the night, it's okay. After a month or two of doing his own jura every evening, they start to have more confidence. The kids that come to, like one kid came to 6 weeks later, he goes, yeah, I do my own jura and own patka now. And then his mum saying, oh, go bend and he was only in year 6. And but they had that pride that our now children can stand up for themselves, they can do their own Gutti, and now they can go on school trips, because the issue with a lot of kids is they don't want to go on school trips in case the Gutti opens and no one can tie it. So it's a way of serving our community and serving the pant out there. Even to Kesh Sambal, we get a few Munne families coming, some Munnas, people who haven't got their Kesh, and they're just coming because we're so intrigued that we want to learn. And they always come back and say, you know what? So kids come back and say, you know what, I do want to keep my case. I'm not ready yet. In the future, I want to keep my case. And I do respect the kids who keep their case so much because they're so strong. And it is helping now with the youth doing that. And so far we've done Smethwick, we've done Handsworth, we've done East London. We've got Leicester coming up with doing Coventry on the 28th of December. So we're going to do England. We're going to go Manchester. We'll do Leeds, we're going to go Telford, we're going to go Scotland, Wales, places where there aren't many. And then our plan is over the next few years, once lockdown's open, we're going to go to France, where there's a lot of immigrant Sikh children. We're going to go to Italy, we're going to go to Germany and do a tour of Europe, giving that same seminar again, showing that all free of charge, all would just love that this is our case, this is how we respect it. And that's one of the missions, and it came over just a conversation after a training session about, because we're always talking about Sikhi, we're always talking about the Sikh youth and children and what we can do to serve. And this is something that come up, and really, it's really helped people out there. And we're just happy that Maharaj has allowed us to do this seva. And everywhere we've gone, what we've said is our PowerPoints, our curriculum, whatever we've got, wherever we go, we say, have it here. Now, do your own seminar. Say, if we've done Smethwick, we don't need to come back to Smethwick. This local Sevadar have got it, and they can run it every so often. If we've done Coventry, the local Sevadar can do it. Once we've done Watford or London, then the locals can keep running it themselves, because we don't own anything. We don't even own our sareer, our bodies. And what happens nowadays is people say, oh, this is my job, this is my seva, why is someone else doing it? And we're like, nah, this is just seva. Like, anyone who wants this, we'll send you the stuff out there, and you guys can run your own, and you can hold it down yourself, because that's what it's about. Each one, teach one. Let's each of us do something for all of us.
I think that's going to be life-changing for the individuals who do attend. So if you're in one of those cities, or if you have access to get to one of those cities, do make sure that you attend, and I will add all the links in the description box below.
Just one final thing that I wanted to add as part of the conversation is, a lot of times people come up and say, I can't keep my Sikh History because of my job, or PE, or the kids are going to do PE, or Kaya. And we explain to them, we've got Sikhs out there who wrestle like yourself. You wrestle, your children wrestle, and they do it in Sikh History with their dastara, with their guttiyan, everything. You can do it. We've got Sikh swimmers out there, we've got Sikh musicians out there, Sikh doctors out there, Sikh dentists, lawyers. We've got astronauts as well. There's a big PE who's an astronaut in America and who keeps a got and everything uncut. So there's nothing you can't do without your Sikh History. Politicians, in a government like ours, that we've still got politicians who go and hold it down in Parliament with their full Sikh History. We've got people in the military. We've got people doing every job you can imagine with their Sikh History. So there's never an excuse or a cop-out for someone.
Absolutely. And like I said, I think a lot of the opportunities I've had in my career are down to the Sikhs route, are down to things like, when the British had Raj in India, it was no dogs and Indians allowed in certain places and in jobs within the Indian civil service beyond administration, regardless of how qualified you were, a non-white couldn't get a job. So I think it's gone in a good way. It's the pendulum has swung to now where they're looking at, well, I went to talk for Metropolitan Police a number of years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago at Gurpur, they did an event, and they said by 2025 or something like that, they want X number of female police officers, X number of non-white police officers, because at the moment, historically, every commissioner of the Met Police has been white, male, and of a certain age group. So they're definitely trying to improve representation of different communities within every organization, whether that's the fire brigade, the NHS, private organizations, companies like Apple. They all want to have a mix of diversity. And there's a really interesting book called Humankind, which is it's very inspiring, and it gives you hope in terms of humanity. And in that book, it talks about proximity. So when you are around in a positive way other groups of people, it really does wonders for dissipating tension and misconceptions and all of that kind of stuff. So the example they gave in the book was around World War One, and a lot of propaganda was given to the British and a lot of propaganda was given to the Germans about the British. So they were fighting World War One in these trenches, but at Christmas the Germans started singing carols and the English knew the words. So on this one day during the World War One, which was a long campaign, they actually had Christmas dinner together. They exchanged gifts, and they formed friendships, and they did things like they would shoot upwards rather than shooting their enemies, because they realized that these people are just like them. They have similar interests. They have family. They love just like the other person does. So I think when you have Sikhi Swoop, and you work in an organization like I work in NHS, which is the largest employer in Europe, there's a lot of opportunities for doing prachar, meeting people and explaining the Sikh faith, but you'll probably only get a chance to do that if you visibly look Sikh. I had a question around keeping your kids' hair, because I had that as a parent, and you probably had that as well. People say, oh, should you keep it? Should you cut it? In my son's school, there's a number of parents who don't keep their hair, but they keep their kids' hair. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm like, all day, every day, of course you should keep your children's hair. Why not give them the best chance in life? And the best chance for us in life is through Sikhi. Like the Guruji teaches us that, the whole purpose of this human Manuk Janam is to come here and jap naam. And the best way to jap it is in that suroop that the Guruji gave us. So of course, give your children the best opportunities, give them that Sikhi suroop, teach them about the Guru, bring them closer, give them faith. Because if someone's got faith and someone's got dharam, everything else doesn't matter. They will ultimately always have a home.
Even from an objective perspective, I think most people can agree that meditation is good. Most people can agree that belonging to a community and faith is good. So just if it's a good thing, why would we not want to start them off like that? And we don't give children alcohol and then say, well, when they get older, they can decide if they want to drink or not. So other types of behaviors, like things that would having your case and having the identity may keep you away from, seems like it makes sense to keep the image and then try and build your faith, try and build your foundation.
I mean, and the image of Sikhi gives you so much strength. I remember as a child, not understanding anything that happened in the Gurdwara, I'd matha take and then I'd be straight out. But I was always drawn to the imagery of Sikhi, the images on the walls of the Shaheed Singhs, the images of the Chote Sahibzade, of all our Sikh history that was on the walls around the Langarhos. That I could sit there for hours and watch them. And I find the same with my children. That's why in my house I've always got pictures of Shaheed Singh's gurus and that. And then the children always look and say, oh, that's Baba Nanak. Baba Nanak said that you got to be kind and you got to share. Children are so pure. They're fully, everyone always says that they're Rabda Roop because it's just loving them. And then when I say to them, the kids do Simran, they start doing the Simran. And then I look at them and I get jealous. I'm thinking, man, I want to do Simran like that where I'm lost in the Shabbat. I'm jealous of little kids. But it's just beautiful to see.
Yeah, I know. As a parent, I know how you feel. It is a very beautiful journey and very special thing. We're very blessed. There were a lot of questions that came in around the topic of Bibia keeping kesh, around PCOS, like facial hair, and people doing prachar with removing hair and all these types of issues. And I think it would be more appropriate for a Bibi to comment on these issues rather than having a Singh comment on issues related to Bibian's choices and what another Bibi may or may not be doing, or the issues that she would be experiencing. I think it would be more appropriate for a female to talk about female issues as opposed to a male. So we'll get somebody in on a future episode to give that perspective, because they have their own challenges.
I think that's definitely an important conversation that needs to be had, and for the Bibia to speak up and say, this is our issue, this is where our strength comes from, and go forth. That is definitely something that I would definitely love to listen to.
You mentioned a Shabad earlier. Where can people find that Shabad if they want to kind of jump it to get inspiration, if they want to read it, if they want to...
That Shabad is in Khalsa Rayatnama, so it's in the Buddha Dal Gutka Sahib, or it's in these Gutka Sahib apps. If you come into Rayatnama, it will be there.
Where can they find out about the Kesh Sambal seminar? Where can people get involved?
With the Kesh Sambal seminars, keep an eye out at your local Gurdwara if any posters pop up. Apart from that, Sikh History Series podcast on their Instagram, or Singh Army podcast on their Instagram, or online. That's where the posters come up. We send them out via WhatsApp, and it's mainly online. And now and then, when we can get to the Gurdwara beforehand, we'll put a poster up, or we'll send them out to the local Sangat.
Is there anything you want to say to the Sangat who may be on the fence about keeping their kesh, or somebody who's struggling and not sure whether they want to keep it or not?
Truthfully, I'm nobody to say anything to anyone. If you're on that path, go to the Guru. Put your head and bow before the Guru and say, Guruji, tell me what to do. Guruji, bless me with a hukamnama. Or if you want to know about that, go to Sikh history and read the stories of your ancestors, of your gurus and your sheets, and everything is there. Ultimately, we don't need to say anything because the answers are all there. The guidance is all there. Everything's set. I'm just a human being, and this body it's not going to survive anything, but our Itihas will always be here, and the Guru will always be here. And that is the truth and the ultimate truth in the world.
And lastly, where can people follow Sikh History podcast? Where can people get in touch with you?
Sikh History Series podcast on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on Instagram, and now on TikTok. Just on there, DM message or Sikh History Series at gmail.com. Just email if there's any questions or anything, and I'll try and get back to you. But sometimes just life gets the better, and always busy, always behind everything. So forgive me if I don't get back to you that quickly.
I want to thank you because you're a dad, you're doing seva, you're working, you're a husband. So I really appreciate you making time. Just for reference, it is 10 to midnight, and you're doing this podcast. So, thank you so much for everything that you do.